All right. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. So I'm excited to see some people interested in learning about the modern Emacs. This is great. So Emacs, as I'm sure you know, is this software from the 70s, but it's really not falling behind. It's, I think, astonishing that for a free and open source tool, it's remained at the cutting edge for so long and is one of the oldest software, yet one of the most intensely and passionately developed. So we are in the age of LLM, of course, and they're really useful for code completion, for research, to write your research. They're really getting into the workflow of researchers, and that has led to an explosion of integrations with text editor and new tool. For instance, the very popular text editor VS Code got forked, and a bunch of AI pair programming capabilities were added to it, and that gives you Cursor. And Cursor is an extremely popular tool, but it's proprietary, it's not free, and it's not Emacs. But if you like Emacs, if you have your key bindings and your habits, you might have had a little bit of anxiety and think, oh no, is this the time to finally leave this tool that I've used and loved for so long to turn to more GUI type text editors or those new tools out there because of the LLM? And the answer, luckily, is absolutely not, because LLMs and all of their capabilities are actually ported to Emacs by a sweep of packages. And this is a very active field. So there will, I'm sure, be new tools that will pop up and be even better in the near future. And some of these tools might evolve. But I try to really review the landscape and see. So I'm not going to present every single package that is out there that allows to interact with an LLM via Emacs, but I really looked at the key ones, the ones that are very popular, talked about a lot, well-maintained, and that people, really use and like. So it's not an exhaustive list, but it's a fairly good overview of what's available out there right now. And I am pasting the link to this webpage in the chat, because all of this is there to stay, so you can revisit it whenever if you would like. And Alex already pasted the link of where the recording will be posted. So if you click on the slide button with a little bit of delay, because Reveal.js always takes a while to load, you're going to get to the slides. And before I jump into the topic, I want to give a little heads up and warning. No worries if someone just joined, posting it again. There we go. I have given a handful of Emacs webinars in the past few years, and I normally never share any of my init configuration, because I have a lot of totally exotic and idiosyncratic stuff on my machine, and if you just copy paste a snippet of my configuration and inject it into your init file, you're not even going to be able to restart Emacs, because it's going to be broken. Because I really hate the Emacs key bindings, even though I love Emacs, and so I developed my entire new system by remapping the semicolon as a ring map. So most of my key bindings start with a semicolon, which of course wouldn't work on anybody else's machine. I also install packages with straight EL, which I think is a fantastic tool, and I really encourage people to look at it and consider using it in the future. But before my snippet would work, you would have to install Straight, because once you have Straight, then you can install other packages. I also use use package, which used to be its own package, but was so popular that now it is part of Emacs core, but that might not be your classic workflow. So for these reasons, I normally never share my snippets, but after each webinar, inevitably, I get a dozen emails of people begging me to share my code. So I decided to try a new approach. I'm putting my code down there, but you are warned, don't copy paste it. Use it as a way to get an inspiration of how your own customization might look like. But frankly, the way to get started with any modern Emacs package is to go to the README on the GitHub page of the package, because Emacs packages tend to be extremely well documented, and you're going to have install instructions there that are going to be generic. Some of them are flawed. The use package declarations in particular are a bit haphazard, but it's going to be a better place to start. Another thing that I want to say, nothing new here, but it's that whenever you interact with an LLM, there is a privacy concern, particularly if you are using the free tiers of what the companies have to offer. These versions are free because they use older model, or you have a number of requests past which you have to wait until the next week, the next month, or whatever. But also, those free tiers usually, or actually always, as far as I have noticed so far, all of your interaction with the LLM is actually used by the company to train their next model. So be careful what you type in your prompt. And even if you have a paid service, unless you are using an LLM developed by your university and runs in a sandbox and with a, but otherwise, even those paid services that supposedly do not share your data and do not use it for training, etc., errors can happen because things are so fast evolving with the onset of the agents. There have been very weird security things happening by accidents. So unintentionally, your data might still happen in the wrong place. So don't put something that is sensitive in those prompts. Now, another thing is that to interact with an LLM, you will need some kind of connection between your computer and that service. For instance, if you have a GitHub Copilot account, or if you have generated a free API key for some service, or if you have a subscription and you have an API key that is attached to a paid account, so attached to your credit card, like you don't want to have any of these things appear in plain text in your init file. Some of the README documentations don't give very good information on how to do that properly. So that's why I'm spending a little bit of time here, because it actually took me a little while to figure that out. Some packages have functions that right away will do things nicely and it's really great. But some packages don't. And they tend to give you an example on how to do things properly with OpenAI, because OpenAI is remains the most popular at this point. But the free OpenAI API key is extremely limited, while the Google free API key has unlimited requests. So I tend to use that one. And to make it work with Google Gemini, it wasn't always obvious. So the way to do this is to use auth-info and the GNU PG. And those are things that are extremely useful if you also want to use Emacs for your emails or to interact with Telegram or Slack. Those are all things that I do. you don't want to have any of these passwords and credentials in your init file, particularly if you put it under version control. But even if you keep it locally, it's just not a very good practice. So the two best methods, in my opinion, of storing credentials, passwords, and in this case here, API keys in a safe way are they're both based on auth source, which is a package that is part of the core Emacs. You don't have to install it. But one is to use a .authinfo.jpg file that lives in your home directory. And because it's encoded with GPG, everything that is in there is safe. And you're going to have one line per secret stuff that you want to share on that file. And the syntax is machine, and then some host name, login, some username, password, and then your password. So the thing that will be encrypted, of course, is the password here. Now, the host name and the username can be things used to log in. For instance, the host name here can be your Gmail address, and your username can be the username that you use to access your email, and then your password. But the host name doesn't actually have to be a true host name. So you can use it to hide just anything. And so in our case here for host name, you can call your like something like a Google key, and then whatever you want for username, and then instead of the password, put your Google API key. And so the key will be encoded, and you can use the authinfo file not to connect to an actual host name, but just to encode the password. And that's the method that I actually do on my machine. I like it. And so depending on the package that you want to use using this API key, sometimes you will need a function depending on how their setup functions have been written. Sometimes you will need a string. So if you need a string, you can just use auth source pick first password with host, your host name. So whatever you have written here between quotes, and user, your username, whatever you have written here. If instead you need a function, you can just pass that into a Lambda function, and you have your function. There will be examples on how to use that in the setups. An alternative way is to use pass. So pass is the standard Unix password manager. This is the actual link for pass. And I've been using it for years. I think it's great. And because it is the Unix standard, it actually integrates with the auth source Emacs package. So that means that you can play with pass directly from within Emacs without having to install anything. So to generate, to enter a new secret stuff, in this case, an API key, in Bash or Z shell or whatever Unix shell you're using, sorry, you will type pass insert and then whatever you want to call it. For instance, Google API key, and then you will be prompted for the password. So the password here is the key. So you pass it from wherever you've copied it twice, and boom. Once you've done that, it's stored in your password store. And then the function to, yeah, cool. Yeah, that works fine as well. The function to use to retrieve the password from pass is auth source pass get. There might be alternative methods, but those are methods that I have tested and they work. And then the key name here is the key name that you have given here for this particular key. So similarly, if you need a string, you would pass this expression, because if you evaluate this expression, it will return your API key as a string in the same fashion that this, if you evaluate it, it returns your API key as a string. If instead you need a function, you wrap that in a lambda function. Okay. So let's get started. So the first tool is a tool that allows to interact with GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot is quite popular, and I think rightly so, because they offer a very wide free plan for everyone. And if you are an instructor, a trainer, a teacher, or if you are a student, you can have access to the Pro plan for free. They even have a Pro Plus plan that you can't access for free, but the Pro plan is what I have as an instructor, is accessible for free. But even if you, and it's fairly easy to get it, but even if you don't want to bother filling things in, they have a free plan. So that's pretty cool. And what is great too is that they give access to a wide range of models, including all of the classics. So via GitHub Copilot, because initially when they launched, because GitHub belongs nowadays to Microsoft, and Microsoft and OpenAI have had all these deals. GitHub Copilot, when it launched, was only using the OpenAI model, so ChatGPT of whatever version was the latest one. But nowadays, GitHub Copilot has broadened the range of models that it offers, because a lot of companies offer the whole spectrum, so they wanted to remain competitive, I guess. And so you can have access to Sonnet from Anthropic, or to Gemini from Google, or ChatGPT, etc., via Copilot. And they also, which is great, because Microsoft has its downsides, but it is actually, oh, why is this not loading? Rather friendly. Why is this not loading? There we go. It is rather friendly, actually, when it comes to open source things. They bought GitHub, I guess, because they do care about open source in some way. And so there is an official Copilot language server that is like the official one by Microsoft, so under the GitHub account, that anyone can use to build an API to use GitHub Copilot in whatever they want. And so because Microsoft also owns VS Code, they integrated it into VS Code. So a lot of people use GitHub Copilot via VS Code, but people have built Emacs packages using this Copilot language server, so that you can access the same functionality in Emacs. And so there are two tools that I will show that allow to access GitHub Copilot, because they offer different things. If you use VS Code, you can have access to everything as one plugin. But in Emacs, two different people build two different packages that are both plugins that allow to access GitHub Copilot in different ways. So copilot.el does code completion. So of course you need a GitHub Copilot account, and there are some little restrictions, but like really easy to meet. And to install it, again, I suggest that you look at their README and you choose whatever method you're most familiar with, depending on how you normally install packages. But I will have my little snippet, but you've been warned about not copy pasting it directly. Now, once you have installed it, you need to install the Copilot server. So that's the server that Microsoft developed, and that's super easy. You just evaluate Copilot install server, and it will do it real quick. And then you need to log in. So logging in to your Copilot account is something that you do only once, but I logged out so that I can show you how this is. Actually, this gets a little too small, so let me do it in two windows. And so this is a package, for instance, that doesn't require you to hide things and encrypt things in your auth info because they have a nice logging system. So to test your setup, the command is copilot diagnose. So if I run this, so I'm in Emacs now. So if I run copilot diagnose, oh, maybe I need to launch it first. Interesting. Yeah. I tested all that, but of course, live coding never works. So maybe I need to, well, okay, let me, if I am, this is so funny. Okay, well, I don't know. Let me maybe reread it from my init file. I don't know why. This is not working as intended. Okay, well, I will skip this section. And try to go back to it later if I don't know why. Maybe I need to launch Copilot. Anyway, let's not lose time on that. I will go back to it. That's a bit annoying. And so I will demo this autocomplete later because I'm kind of stuck for now. And this is my setup. But let's move on. So the other package that allows to access GitHub Copilot is copilot chat.el. And the difference is that this one allows you to chat with Copilot. So in the copilot.el package, you can kind of chat with Copilot because what I wanted to demo is that you can start writing code and then with your key binding of choice, have some auto-completion. But you can also write a comment, for instance, a function that does this and that, and press the Copilot completion key binding after that. And the LLM will be smart enough to provide you with a function that matches the comment that you have written just above. So by commenting your script, you can tell the LLM what kind of code you want it to write. But if you want to type that in a prompt instead of having to do it via comments, Copilot Chat is better. So again, you need to have access to GitHub Copilot, of course. And it has more functionality because you can chat with a model and the formatting is either Markdown, I should say the markup is either Markdown or ORG. So that's pretty cool because it's nicely formatted. You can automatically copy the code snippets that is given in the chat so that you can pass it into your script very easily. You can save and restore chats. You can remove any number of buffer as context. And you can choose the model. And as I said, now Copilot gives access to a lot of models. But so all of this you can do with the auto-completion copilot.el, but you can do a lot of cool stuff, which really brings it into the AI pair programming full experience, because you can write text for your code, you can review it, fix it, optimize it, modify it, etc. So I will hopefully demo this one more successfully. And here are all my crazy key bindings. So let's go back to this test.r file. So it's an R script. I could have done it in Python or in whatever. And those LLMs are smart enough to infer, of course, the language that you are using based on the major mode of your buffer. So if we want to see my major mode, I don't know whether you can see it down there at the bottom, but I am in an SSSR mode. So this is an SSS buffer. And maybe let me make it a little bigger. Okay. So let's say that I want to create some function in R that matches the FizzBuzz game, which is something that computer programmers are used to, because now in the age of LLMs, it's pointless, but used to be asked to do when they were hired by software companies. So this, I can pass the link in the chat in case that is of any use, is one of the, one of the lessons of my high performance R course. And I will use this as an example of how you could do it with an LLM. I did this without the use of LLM, but nowadays I could have done it differently, I guess. So I can launch Copilot Chat by my key binding, and it asked me to choose for a directory. So I can choose where I want it to launch. And so now I am in a Copilot chat with that is launched in some particular directory. And that can be useful to launch it in a project if you want to give it more context, etc. And let me pass the prompt so to save time. I can ask as a prompt, write a function that outputs a series from 1 to n matching the FizzBuzz game, because that's what this whole section was about. So for those who don't know anything about the FizzBuzz game, it's a children game initially to have them practice divisions. And children sit in a circle and they start counting, except any number that is divisible by 3, instead of saying the number the child is supposed to say fizz. Any number divisible by 5, they say buzz, and divisible by both 3 and 5, they say fizz buzz. So the kids go 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz, etc. And so the whole goal of this section was to write functions that would output a series from 1 to n that would match those rules, and to do some benchmarking to see what functions are fastest and more efficient. And so let's see how to do that. So I send this request, and boom, this is the answer. And so very quickly, because of course this is happening on some GitHub server somewhere. So, but because I have already logged in, that's something that I should have mentioned. Once you have installed it, the very first time you type your key binding to launch the chat, the exact same thing that I was supposed to demo in the Copilot login happens, and that happens a single time, and I will try to demo it later. But so I did it already, so I am connected to my GitHub Copilot account. And so now when I'm typing something in the prompt, it's sending it to the server, and boom, I'm getting the reply, and it's coming real quick. So the answer is that so it's explaining the FizzBuzz game, and then it's giving me a snippet that actually looks correct, although we could test it. and then it's explaining me how to use my function and some output. So this is kind of cool. And so now if I go back to my test R, I can actually directly, without having to highlight the code snippet and copy it and all that, I can just yank it directly. Yanking in Emacs is pasting. So this is the code that got automatically put into my keyring, and boom, I can paste it. And so now I could run it and test it. Did it? Oh yeah, actually, you're right. Oh, this is crazy. Yeah, thanks, Alex. You are right. Yes, this is a Python function. So let's, that's because I didn't give it any information. Totally my fault. Because I didn't tell it that I wanted to have it in R, and I didn't give it any context. Yes, of course, my fault. Earlier, when I tested it with exactly this prompt, I had given it as a context my test R file, and so it knew we were in an R file. So let's fix that. I want it now in R. Yeah, thanks, Alex. Of course, that would not work. So, okay, yeah. So now I am getting the same thing in R. So by default, because Python is the most commonly used language these days, I guess, without any information, it gave it in Python. So yes, so that is a lot better. And so now I can yank that and I have an R function. Yeah, thanks, Alex. Okay. So by default, it has used Copilot GPT 4.1, but I can change Copilot set model. I can choose any of the Copilot models. So I could have used Gemini 2.5, for instance, or you can see that you can use the Anthropic Sonnet new models, etc. So depending on your GitHub plan, if you are on the free tiers, you might run out of tokens for some of these things. So things might stop working after a while, but the Emacs package allows you to choose your model if you want and chat like that. Now you can, let's imagine that instead of asking in the chat for a function, I had written that function myself instead. So let's even close this, let's kill it. So I wrote that, but this whole course was about optimizations. And if you look through it, you will see that I go from a terrible function and then I improve function little by little. So let's start maybe with my terrible function. So let's replace that. So that's my terrible function. And why is it terrible? Well, it's terrible because I am not pre-allocating any memory. I am writing a loop, and at each iteration of the loop, I am adding a new element, and this is extremely inefficient. It's a lot faster, regardless of the language that you are using, to pre-allocate the full vector in memory. So in this case, it's going to be a vector of size n, and then fill it in with the elements. But maybe I don't know that. I've written this function. It's a bit slow. So maybe I can highlight it, and I'm going to ask Copilot Chat to optimize it. So I have a key binding for that you can see in my crazy setup, because you can have no, this is the wrong package. So of course you will have to put something that will not make everything break and that doesn't start with a semicolon. But here you can see all of the things that you can do. You can explain some code. So you can highlight code and ask it to explain it. You can explain a particular function or just a symbol under your point. You can ask it to review some code, to document it, to fix it, etc., but also to optimize it. So this is what I'm gonna use here by running Copilot Chat Optimize via my key bindings. So I run this, and okay, so here is an optimized and more idiomatic R version. So there we go. Pre-allocate a character vector for efficiency. So this is really the key part. And that's what I was hoping that it would do. But it's even actually doing something better because it uses vectorized operations instead of a loop, which is actually the best way to optimize R code. And it avoids repeating modulo operations. So this is actually really excellent, and it's giving me here something that is very close to my best function where I am doing all these things. And if we were to do some benchmarking between my bad function and the optimized function, you would see a huge difference. Now, because it's an LLM, it's all unpredictable, it's all probabilistic. And when I tested this before the webinar and I asked it to optimize this bad function, it optimized it by pre-allocating the full vector in memory. So that was great, but it didn't do the other things. So it had optimized it, but much less than it has this time. But that has nothing to do with the Emacs package, obviously. It has to do with the, in this case, GPT 4.1 model. And when you run the same model, asking it the same thing twice, you will get different things each time, probabilistic nature. Also, interesting to note that when I asked Copilot Chat to give me a function, it gave me a function with, I didn't test it due to time, but it looked correct. But it wasn't an optimized version. So if you ask it to generate some code, then you can also ask it to optimize that code because it doesn't necessarily come up with an optimized version right away. And obviously you need to test. So I would have to, well, actually, maybe let's do it just for fun. So I would have to define n equals, for instance, 20. Oopsie. So I am now running from still in Emacs an R session over there. And so now I'm gonna run the whole thing, and the function is called, oh, no, this is, yes, that's the optimized function. And so f1 of n, oops, oh, why is, this is not convincing at all. Okay, so let me type it here, f1 of n. Oh, what is happening? Well, okay, my demo are not working, but the code looks actually correct. I don't know why it says that n is not defined. I just defined it. So my script is not connecting to my REPL for some reason. Well, anyway. All right, second live demo failed. Another package is GPT-EL, which access a chat and optimization and the review and the similar functionality from any buffer. So here again, you need, yes, one difference is that the two packages that I showed so far worked with GitHub Copilot, which I think is great because it gives you access to all of the models, but maybe you don't want to use GitHub Copilot. Maybe you want to use Gemini, you have a Google API key, or maybe you have a subscription with OpenAI and you want to use your OpenAI key and you want to use a particular model. Or maybe you actually have the Llama, DeepSeek, and a number of models have open source weights. So maybe you have downloaded an open source weight model and you have trained it locally, and maybe that's what you want to use. So GPT-EL allows to utilize all of these options. And it offers similar things. The markup is in Markdown or org mode. And of course, all of this is customizable. In the chat here, if you look at the major mode, here is Copilot chat or prompt mode, because I choose org mode, and this is why the formatting is in org mode. But if you prefer Markdown, we could have it as Markdown. You can also choose the model, add or remove context, including media, which is actually quite cool. You can add images or whatever. And you can also set the temperature of the model, which is the randomness of the model. You can set it between 0 and 2. And I told you that LLMs are probabilistic, so you're going to get different results each time. But how different they are going to be can be set via what's called the temperature. And because it's a fairly popular model, a number of packages actually are built on GPT-EL and add some more niche functionality. So the setup here is fairly simple. And so let's close this. So to launch it, I launch with a key binding, and it asks me to choose a model. And by default, I am using Gemini because, again, Google allows unlimited tokens for Gemini 2.5 Pro. But in the free tiers, again, any of my interactions are used by Google for training, so be careful. And so here I can chat, and I could ask, I could add some context. I could ask the same thing. I could write the same prompt I had, and let's put it in R this time. And here Gemini is waiting. And so a difference in GPT-EL is that you can see the reasoning of the model. So while with Copilot chat, we got the reply bing, like really quickly, which is convenient. Here, there's a totally different process, at least if you use a reasoning model. If you use a non-reasoning model, you wouldn't have that. But you could see the reasoning happening, the various steps, and you can revisit it and modify it. And so here as well, you can see that the markup is in org mode, because that's what I selected, and there's a lot of explanation and etc. So this is a more thorough answer. And I won't spend too much time on it, but you can similarly optimize things. And so, yeah, sorry, these key bindings that launches GPT-EL. So I launched a dedicated GPT-EL buffer, but as I said, this package is to access an LLM from any buffer. So if instead you use GPT send, you can interact with the model from anywhere. So let's test that actually. Let's close this. Let's recreate this function in R. So I could select this and run GPT send, and now you can see that it is querying Gemini in the mini buffer, and I am now accessing Gemini directly from my buffer. So if you want a dedicated chat, if you find that's more convenient, great. But if you want to interact directly in whatever buffer you're developing, you can also do that. So that's kind of the advantage. And here again, you can see the reasoning that's happening, and then you can see the code. Okay. Then there is another one. It's similar, except that it doesn't allow you to interact with the LLM from any buffer. And instead of having this dedicated org or markdown buffer to chat with the LLM, it does it in a shell. So you might like the idea of working in an Emacs shell to interact. Maybe you're used to using R or Python or whatever directly in the shell, and you like the shell workflow. And so that might be the package for you if that's what you like. And you can either choose the comint, which is the Emacs default shell, but it also integrates with vterm, which is a much nicer shell that works very well in Emacs. So here again, you can use a local model or use an API key. Oh, and yes, I forgot to mention these API keys. I told you that I would show in my settings how to use those snippets that I showed you at the very beginning, and then I forgot. So for copilot.el and copilotchat.el, there's no such thing because there is this login that I could not demo with GitHub Copilot that you have to do once and then that's it. So you don't have to store any secret anything in your init file. GPT-EL has a function, so you don't have to come up with your thing. They have this set of functions. So there is GPT-EL make Gemini, GPT-EL make ChatGPT, GPT-EL make Claude, etc. And they allow to get your API key from your auth source directly. So you, of course, need to add the line in your auth source file, but you don't have to use the little snippet I gave you at the start in the setup of the package because they have their own function. But some packages don't, and this is the case for GPT, whatever it's called, the ChatGPT shell. So this one doesn't, and they even give examples on how to put your API in plain text directly, but you don't want to do that. So this is where you have to provide some function that will allow to retrieve your API key. Because they have this ChatGPT shell something key, so that can be Google key or OpenAI key or Anthropic key that needs a function to get the key. So this is the snippet that I showed you at the beginning, but with one particular example. So actually, I can show it to you since it's encoded. If I show you my auth info, the passwords are protected, so I guess it's okay. I have, as the host, Google API key. As a user, I just called it secret. It doesn't matter. So I have this Google API key and secret, and this is my API key, which of course is a lot longer than 4 characters. This is just the way GPG is protected. And so thanks to that little snippet, when I launch the shell, the auth info file will get decrypted, and I will launch the shell. So to launch the shell, I have a key binding here, so let's try it. So if I run C, yeah. So if I had just launched Emacs for the first time, if I had shut down Emacs and relaunched it, you would have seen in the mini buffer the decryption of the auth info, the retrieval of the key, but it happens pretty fast because I did it before the webinar to test things. It didn't, it was already decrypted, so that was even faster. I'm using Gemini 2.5 Pro again because I have set it as my default, where did I set it? Maybe I set it in the customization, not in my declaration. But you can, here again, choose and swap model. You can even swap model in the middle of a chat without having to change the context. You can describe code, proofread text, etc. And so let's maybe write the same thing just to test it out. Yes. Okay. Well, this one was a little longer. It took a little delay, and it is giving me a Python reply, so that's pretty poor. I want it in R. So that's a bit slower, and I got something pretty bad, even though I'm using Gemini 2.5 Pro. Okay, now I'm getting an R function with some weird cat. So this is not super impressive. So this is not the best reply we've had. But anyway, this is how it works. And if you kill the buffer, you are asked whether or not you want to save the transcript, because you can save it and restore it. All of these chats can be saved and restored in all of those packages. Okay, and then lastly, before we run out of time, Emacs. So Cursor is this VS Code fork that has become very popular by software developers, but it's not free, and if you want to use Emacs instead of VS Code, this is not what you want to use. But there is this Ada open source project that is really great, and it offers AI pair programming in the terminal. So this is really cool. As you can see, it has nearing 40,000 stars. So that's a very popular project because it's kind of an open source alternative to Cursor. And then people implement Ada into various text editors to create, to have an IDE instead of using it in the terminal. So this is what Emacs is doing. So it's built on Ada, but it's implemented it inside Emacs. So this really gives you the full, what's called AI pair programming capabilities. And software developers love it, because what these things do is that they can automatically generate changes in your code and automatically create a commit with the changes, and right away show you a diff of the changes so that you can quickly look at the changes, and if you accept, boom, commit instantly. And those LLMs nowadays, like all of these packages I didn't mention, but they can write automatically commit messages. So they will all write commit messages for you, but this one in addition will actually create the commit with a change and show you a diff so that you can quickly see things. And software developers really love it, because they're really used to the Git workflow, and it's really tightly integrated with Git. And so if you use Git all the time as part of your workflow, you're going to love it, because this is the most powerful package that I'm presenting today. But if you aren't using Git all the time, and if you don't want the LLM to write the code for you constantly, you want something that's a little bit more hands-off, the other packages might work better for you, because this one is really powerful, but a little bit aggressive almost. And so the way it works is that you launch it in a project usually, and so that's usually would be a project put under version control, and it will automatically detect the project root, and it integrates with vterm, which is this better terminal. You can even give it commands by voice instead of typing in the prompt. It can do all the things that the other ones do, such as debugging and writing tests and documentations, etc. But you can also ask it to rewrite your README or rewrite this entire file and add some humor into it or whatever. And it will right away make the changes, commit, and show you the diff via the diff Emacs package that is called ediff, that allows to quickly jump from one change to another, and it's quite cool. So the setup is fairly minimal, and here you do need to have a string for your API key, because even though this is a very fancy package, very surprisingly, they actually don't, they encourage you to put your key in plain text in your init file, which is a little bit crazy, but the way to configure it easily, and they show you some pre-hook stuff to hide it, but it's very complicated. A much simpler method that works very well is to set the environment variable of your API key. So in my case, it's Google API key, but it could be OpenAI, OpenAI API key or whatever. And then this is the snippet that I showed at the beginning that returns the API key as a quoted string. And then they also have a bunch of modes. So there is a coding mode if you want to generate code. There is they call it an ask mode, which is like a general chat mode. There is a help mode. And then there is what they call the architect mode. And so this architect mode is this fancy new technique that is a two-step process where first you have a code reasoning model that will process your prompt with words, and then it will send that to a code editing model that will translate the reasoning steps into actual code. And supposedly, this is where they get the best result. And so this architect mode is a very fancy mode that allows you to, like if I were to use it and to ask to rewrite this Fizzbuster stuff or to rewrite some code, two different LLM would actually take action. First, a reasoning model that then would pass it to a coding model, and then I would have the output. And Emacs is actually a fork from Eder.el, which hasn't died, so both projects still exist. I chose Emacs because it integrates more with Emacs, which is actually why they forked the project. Eder.el is really an Emacs wrapper for the Eder command line tool. So it runs in Emacs, but it doesn't integrate super nicely with Emacs. Well, Emacs, thanks to transient, which is one of the dependency, this is one of the dependency of Magit as well. It's developed by the Magit project. It's this way to have this all nice way of customizing things in the middle of giving commands, and that's what makes Magit very powerful. So they implemented it. So let's try it. Oh yeah, and it's also supports Tramp, which is a way to either edit things as a different user, which is very useful if you want to edit things as root, or edit things via SSH or like via remote connections. So it's all really powerful. So you launch it by launching this Emacs transient menu mode, because again, since it's based on this transient menu, here I am launching this transient menu, and then you can see all of the various options. So you can see that I don't have a running session, but if I press A, now I have a buffer here that is running. And yeah, Alex, if you can share the link, that'd be fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, and if people need to leave, I am a little bit out of time, so I'll keep going a little bit, but by all means, feel free to leave if you have to. So Ada will create all sorts of files because it is this very fancy thing. It will create a history of your chats so that you can go back to them later. It will create all sorts of files. And so when you launch it for the very first time in a project, again, it's all really fundamentally based into the Git version control system. The first thing that it asks you is whether you want to put all the .ada files to git ignore. And so if you press yes, whoopsie, it will edit your git ignore automatically, so that then all of those .ada files get out of your git work. And so it has automatically detected my current working directory, obviously, but it has detected the root of the Git working directory, which is this here. And because I have set architect as the default mode, I am in architect mode. But again, thanks with this key binding that gets me to the transient mode, I can change anything I want. So now you can see that my session is running. You can see it here. And you can see the 4 different modes. So I could, if I press 1 now, I'm changing to code mode. So the mode is now code, which is the default, which is why the prompt doesn't have anything. I could add some file, so to give some context. You can change some code. So let's kill it here maybe, and let's rewrite our bad functions. Which was my okay, let's go get it on the web. Let's start from my bad function again. Okay, so let's start from this, for instance. If I select it and I launch Emacs, so first, because I killed the session, I need to launch it. So I'm going to press A to launch it. But then I can, so, well, it's launching here. So there we go. So now I can select some snippet of code and, for instance, go into over here, code change. So if I press C, now you can see that the code that I have highlighted is over there. And now I'm asking Ada to actually directly edit my code. So I could make it more, or optimize this function. So, okay, so what happened? So, right, so it scanned the repo, okay, and so, and now it is waiting for Gemini 2.5 Pro. And again, of course, this worked this morning, and now I got a reply instantly this morning, and now we are waiting for the Gemini 2.5 Pro server to answer. Ah, there we go. Okay, so here is the change. Okay, so I can create a new file, and you can see these are the typical Git markers, because you can see that it has directly made the changes, and it's showing me the file with the Git marker here. So I could create a new file if I wanted to create a backup, but let's say no. Oh, it's keeping the edits. Okay, so I guess I should have said yes. But anyway, we are running out of time. My demo is not necessarily the most convincing, but if you want to see it in action, you can look at this video. I find it frankly overwhelming because it goes extremely fast, and it's very hard to understand what the guy is doing, but you can see how a demo that works actually looks like. And despite my failings of the live coding, all of the readmes of all of those packages are great, and all of these things are very well documented, with the exception of how to hide your API key for some of the packages. So if you want to keep something from this webinar, it's one that you can use LLMs with full functionality in Emacs. You can have the full cursor experience in Emacs. I'm giving an overview of the most popular packages right now. All of these packages will be perfectly documented and get you started and show you how to use things, and it's actually usually pretty simple. Some packages will allow you to store your credentials in a nice, easy way. Some packages left you a little bit on your own on how to do that, but if you use the auth info instruction here, that's filling in the little gap, so you should be able to get things on your own. So if people still have time, I can try to do the Copilot login from the first package I presented, but if people have to run, again, don't hesitate. But I will try once again to log in with copilot.el, because I am still very confused as to why this didn't happen. So Copilot, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I got it to work just fine before. Ah, maybe, oh, I know. Okay, I know. Yes, okay. Ah, it has to do with my, let me make this bigger, with the way I have set it using use package, right? So use package is fantastic because it loads things lazily, and this will make your Emacs sessions start a lot faster, because you might have 200 packages, and including all sorts of LSP and LLM stuff and heavy duty stuff, and sometimes you just want to open Emacs to like edit a text file. And so you don't want to load everything. And so use package is fantastic because it loads things lazily. And the reason I couldn't access any of the Copilot stuff is because I first have to run one of the Copilot command to lazily load the Copilot config. So totally my fault. So now that I have done that, I can run Copilot diagnose, and you can see that I'm not logged in. So I'm getting a message not signed in. But, and the sign in is persistent. So you have to sign in just once and then it will work. But so the very first time you use it, you run Copilot login, which is what I gave in the instructions here. After installing the Copilot server, you run Copilot login. And so now you can see that a one-time code was generated by Emacs. It is copied. And if I press enter, a pop-up, like a login will open automatically in my browser. And so if I continue here, I can paste the login that was given to me by Emacs, and then I have to authorize the plugin. And once I have granted permission here and I'm all set, I can go back to Emacs, and now you can see in the mini buffer, press enter if you finish authorizing. Yes, I'm done. So I'm pressing enter, and now I am authenticated as GitHub user Prosoitos. Prosoitos is my GitHub username. So now if I run Copilot diagnose again, now Copilot is okay, I can use it. So yes, the reason I couldn't access Copilot is because of the use package lazy declarations, and because I hadn't run the key that triggers the evaluation of that part of my init file. So at least one fail solved. Phew. So now with Copilot, I haven't demoed any of it, but you can do a number of optimizations and all that, but you can also just run Copilot complete. So now if I am in an ESS R mode, so it will know it is in R. So if I write a comment and I write, for instance, function, so if I write function that outputs a series, etc., and then if I use the key bindings that will trigger Copilot complete, you have to give it a little bit of time because it's pinging the server. I have a suggestion directly in the code. And I can either accept it all. Oops, wrong key binding, sorry. I can either accept it all, and I have this, and then of course I can rewrite it, but I can also accept part of it, because maybe I like the beginning, it's like, okay, yeah, this is good, but now then, okay, yeah, I don't want that. I actually want to have something that will look like that. And then you can keep on suggesting things. It's like, yeah, okay, this is good. Yeah, this is, whoops, no, sorry. Yeah, this is good, but like, okay, give me the, yes, it's please, etc., etc. And so instead of chatting with the LLM, this package works by auto-completion, and that might fit your workflow better. Okay, now this time I think I should stop. Are there any questions?